Welcome back. This is part 7 of the B.R.A.T. Basic Registered Adult Training for Spiral Scouts International. And we are going to talk about regular group planning. We talked about initial planning, and I feel like while there's a lot of similarities, once you're established, it's slightly different. It just is. We suggest at Spiral Scouts International that you should have a planning meeting at least every 6 months to discuss upcoming meetings and events. My personal recommendation, especially if you have a committee like we talked about, meet once a month or every other month. This allows you to stay on top of what your charter is doing versus doing it on the fly, which means you miss things. You can hold this I've been in a variety of different groups that have had committee or planning meetings like this. In one group, we met once a month on a completely different day than our scout or our groups met. Some groups, depending on how much organization you require, you may need more time, and you may find that there's something different you need to do, and you only need to plan every other month. But I would say the minimum is either every 3 months or 6 months. And I apologize for the cat in the background if you hear her meowing. I suggest that part of this is planning when your meetings are going to be. Look ahead. Put your meeting dates on a calendar and look to see if there's any holidays or special occasions around those dates. Plan those meetings accordingly. All the other dates can then be devoted to badge work. Since there's so many special occasions through the year, 4 to 5 badges is normal for a circle. But if you want to do more badge work, or maybe you're a charter that, you do some of the stuff together and send your kids home with some stuff too. It really depends, again, on how your charter wants to be structured and what your purpose and goals are as a group. And scouts are always welcome to work on extra badges and awards independently. Provide them with the documentation for that. All of our badges are going to be available as a full leader handbook for you, where you can see all of the different age requirements together in the badges. We're going to have handbooks for each age level. We do have an older copy of digital versions for this. And our badge chair, Brittany, has also made forms for individual badges. There are multiple options depending on your charter's needs. If you have a scout that's wanting to do that badge, just give them that sheet. If you have a scout that's doing a lot of badges, make sure they have a copy of the digital handbook. Other things that you may want to look at in this are snack rotation, or maybe, each month a different parent handles supplies, or how you're going to handle supplies. If you plan ahead, you can figure out what supplies you need, and it may be that families 1, 2, and 3 can supply those because they already have those things, or they're willing to buy them. Look at scout officer positions. A kid might be excited to have their family be in charge of snacks, and so make it a position. Give them some responsibility. Cleanup officer, craft officer, they're in charge of getting the supplies out and putting them up. Attendance officer, your scouts can take attendance for you. All of these things are options that are also covered in the Gold Award, which is the first award we suggest your charter earning. So don't think, again, that this is only something for a circle. If you're a hearth with 2 or 3 kids, this may be hard for raindrops, but even at Firefly, you can include them in this. Give them responsibility. Project, award, and badge planning. We definitely want to involve our scouts in this. This may be a yearly thing, or it may be a quarterly thing, or older children can discuss this between themselves. There's multiple ways to plan this out. Choosing one badge, choosing one from each element. Make sure that you're setting up the lead time to order your badges. The current lead time ordering for badges is up to 2 months because we have a volunteer basis, and as much as we try to get orders out as quickly as possible, we want to be realistic about our limitations and our time constraints. And if you have any questions about that, I do not set these timelines. Please direct those questions to HQ. So there's multiple ways you can do this. Some groups like to pick 1 badge in each element and 1 award. Some vote. You're going to figure out how to best break this up based on your needs. These are all suggestions. Think about these things when you're having your planning meetings. Once you have your schedule, you can then submit this to your support committee if you're going to have one of those. and they can help figure out the details of getting the supplies and the funds needed to make the schedule happen. As I mentioned before, planning ahead is also helpful when ordering badges. If you know you're going to have a ceremony on this date, you can order the badges in advance. I know occasionally, so for me, being a hearth, when we do our planning, I plan to buy our badges once a year, primarily to cut down on shipping costs. A picture of every badge, just a simple picture, and I print them out on sticker paper. My daughter has a page, and as she earns them, she puts them on her page. We have one for each element, and one for the awards, and one for the Spiral of Stars. And we put the stickers on them as we complete them. When we get the badge, she sews them on. You may find that based on your financials of your charter, it makes sense to only order once a year. Planning in advance makes meetings and circles and hearths run smoothly. There's no guesswork, there's no confusion. Field trip planning. So here's some considerations to take into mind when doing field trip planning. Plan the date well in advance, keeping in mind what the local weather and season tends to be like, and which badge or award is good for this trip and availability. Always plan a secondary date in case bad weather happens on the first date. Location. How far will everyone have to travel, and how are you planning on get there? Is there a badge or an award that this field trip would cover the requirements for? What is your dress code going to be? What are your plans for food and snacks? How much is it going to cost, and how will your charter pay for costs? Are you going to fundraise? Are each family going to pay for themselves? For field trips, you want to make sure you have your medical forms, your field trip permission forms, the motor vehicle checklist form, if you're transporting scouts other than, just your own kids. Make sure you have a portable first aid kit. Consider state transportation laws that have to be adhered to. And anyone transporting a scout that's not their own child has to fill out the motor vehicle checklist form. No scout is to be alone in a vehicle with an adult that is not their parent or legal guardian. And all forms for field trips can be found in the leader section of the teams. Camp out planning. Again, you're going to consider the date and the weather and availability and backups. Making sure that you have essentials for heat or cold. Checking out the refund policy on campgrounds for extreme weather. Having done scouting for years as both a scout and a leader, what badges or awards are related? And do any topics need to be addressed before the camping trip, or can you do it all during the trip? What kind of food? With a camping trip, are you all going to cook together, or is everybody going to cook independently? I've seen both, especially if you have younger kids though. I suggest everybody agreeing on one, maybe two options, and having the kids sign up ahead of time so they know that's the option they're going to have. Again, how much is it going to cost? How are you going to pay for it? We talked about that before. And for this, you're also going to need the medical forms, the field trip permission forms, and the motor vehicle checklist. Consider what gear you're going to need and who's going to be required to bring what. Oh, and especially, scouts are not to share a tent with an adult that's not their parent or legal guardian. Designate a scout tent for those who have come without a parent or legal guardian with a registered adult tent nearby. Also, registered adult to scout ratios must be maintained. Planning for awards ceremony and spiraling up. So, at some point in the year, each charter will need to present the scouts with the physical patches or the awards and badges they have earned. Some charters do this as they're earned. Spiraling up ceremonies will also need to be planned if there will be any scouts moving up to the next age level. These ceremonies can be done separately or together. And it may be that you hold your ceremony where you hold your meetings, or that you hold it somewhere else. Is this part of a larger camping trip? Do you need the medical form? Black Bear Circle number 182 would have a Beltane camp out where they would have a spiral in and a spiraling up and a spiraling out for their kids. Circle 198, when it was active, held it at Christmas time and had a potluck dinner. And it should be encouraged for the scouts to invite their family to celebrate and rejoice what they've done. There's detailed suggestions for these ceremonies in the leader handbook. And then I think we're going to go into the super spiral and some of these other things in our next video. This one's run a little longer than I would like, so we will be back with the next part when you're ready. Have a great day.